I think I should start. Is that all right? Do you think we should get started? Okay, do you want to record then?
I started
Oh, you
recording.
already did. Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is the System Dynamics Society pre-college SIG meeting. We either have webinars or large SIG meetings every other month. Um, we usually have something every month, but one or the other. And this is a SIG meeting, which means the presentations are supposed to be intentionally short, so we have more time for conversation. Oh, Kareem is here. Oh, good. I thought he would be
Yes,
later. Thank you, Kareem. I'm glad you're here.
I got out early.
Oh, good. Um, I was intending to go first, so if you don't mind, I think I will do my presentation first, and then Kareem will do his. Um, so last month, we had a webinar that talked about how to use AI to create causal loop diagrams. We were talking about Co-Model then, which is a free software from Skip Design for the CLD part, and Stella for the stock flow part. But that's just how to actually use AI in building a model. But the big question after you know that is, okay, what should we be concerned about when using AI to have students build either one of those? And that's what we want to address in this meeting. So I have 5 or 6 slides. I'm going to talk about some guidelines for stock and flow model building by students. And Kareem is going to talk about CLD model building by students. And remember, we are all very new at this. We are experimenting. We don't have a lot of experience, but we're going to share what we know, and we hope you will also share with us when we get to the questions and answers at the end. We hope that you will share with us some of your experiences. So I am going to start, and if you don't mind, I'm going to present, and then Kareem is going to present. So we have the presentations together, and then we will open it up for conversation for everyone, and you can ask either of us questions or you can make comments. So if you will allow me, I will share my screen. Can you see my screen? Can everyone see my screen? Okay, good. Guidelines using AI to build small stock flow models. That's what I'm going to talk about. Oh, okay. Okay, there we go. Now, I have been using the Stella AI, and there is a free version of Stella called Stella Online. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but that free version has this AI capability in it. So if you wanted to play around with it, you could. In the Stella AI, there are 2 types of AI support. One is actually building a stock flow model. You would be in the build quantitative mode, or asking questions about the model and having the AI help you not revise, but add to the model. The other is the discussion mode, where Selden Mentor is more like a Chat GPT, teach learn mode, where you're just asking it some questions. It's a tutoring mode, so it doesn't give you answers so much as ask you questions. It does give you some information, and then it asks you. It's more interactive. And then Discussion Selden, which is just a powerhouse of analyzing the stock flow model that you've built, if you've built it with loops that matter turned on, and analyzing it to explain model behavior. So that's what's available in the software. And if you want to know more about that, you ought to go back to the webinar we had last month, which the webinar is posted on our System Dynamics Society webpage. So here are some problems using AI to build stock flow models. Students may not understand that AI can create misinformation. So it may add components that should not be included in the model. They may not realize that AI can be biased, so it may omit important components that ought to be part of a model, like very old or very young populations or people of different ethnicities. They need to get a grasp on that. Students may not understand what AI has included in the model. Sometimes it can add structure and you don't even understand what it has given you, or the definition of each component might be much more complicated than it should be, especially for beginning students. And the other problem is students may quit thinking critically about the problem and the model. And because AI gave it to them, they may just accept what AI produces, which is a really bad habit that we want to try to avoid. So, students must know some system dynamics to use AI effectively. These are the kinds of things that even before they start, how can they critically analyze a model if they don't know anything about system dynamics? So they need to know how to identify a system, what mental models are, how to identify assumptions and model boundaries, causality and link polarity. What is a stock? What is a flow? What is feedback? And what are the types of feedbacks? They need to know how to build simple stock flow models, ones especially that produce linear, exponential, convergent, and simple sinusoidal behavior. They need to know how to define components, what the labels should be identified as, what the equations. When I taught my students to build stock flow models, I told them the equations, the math equations need to be as simple as possible, because the point is to communicate what we're doing to an audience who may not be very comfortable with sophisticated mathematics. They need to know what the units should be. They need to know that structure determines the behavior and how to analyze and explain a model to an audience. They need to know the system dynamics modeling process. This is before they even use AI. They've got to know this or they can't analyze what AI is giving them. So they can't get critical of it. So here are some guidelines. SD best practice recommends building a model in stages. Using AI increases the importance of this guideline. You absolutely have to build your model in stages when you use AI. Otherwise, it can get too big and you haven't analyzed the small parts yet to see if they make sense, if the definitions are okay, if all the pieces are okay before you go to a slightly larger model. Students should analyze each state of a model for correct connections to the real world process. Is it using the correct structure? They should check that each icon is defined with simple math, has correct labeling and link polarity. They should use exercises. The teacher can use exercises that show bad behavior of that AI can produce, like missing links or incorrect link polarity or poorly defined icons, which students have to analyze that the AI may have given them some bad product. They should give, the AI gives us often, at least in my experience, equations that are much more complicated than necessary. students should have to simplify those definitions because we don't want the equations protecting a stock from going negative. There's a structure that should be part of the model that does that for best practice. So they've got to really start looking at the equations that AI is giving them in the model icons that it's giving them. Have students ask the AI to produce a model that they've already created and see the difference between the model they've already created and the model that AI has produced and analyze the pros and cons of those different methods of producing a model. We could, bad behavior could be to ask students to produce a model at different times of the class period or at different times of day to realize that what AI gives them is probabilistic and not deterministic. In other words, they could get a different model. AI could give them a different model structure in the morning than it gives them in the afternoon. They have to understand that. Okay, these exercises train students to expect that AI is going to make mistakes. So it enhances the students' critical thinking to analyze each thing that AI is giving them to see if AI is giving them good product that makes sense that they can use to go to the next stage. Oops, I clicked on the wrong thing. I want to, no, close this. Wait, I can't see my screen. Okay, here we go. Uh-oh. Okay, so now we have the guidelines regarding what AI can do that's really valuable. In mentor mode, which is when it's acting as a tutor, AI can help students to come up with ideas for a model. It can help them come up with a good problem statement for their whole modeling effort. It can guide them through the modeling process by helping them understand more about what the dynamics of the problem could be. It can clarify their thinking on a part of the problem that maybe they don't understand very well. It can use that clarification. You can put that into the model background information, which gives AI a better sense to build a better model by using the clarification that AI has actually provided them from a previous prompt. It can help students identify which components should be used in their very first model. It can help them, it can guide them to produce good prompts. This is something that some of my colleagues have done earlier on, which is really, really important. Have AI help you produce good prompts because we know how important the prompts are in getting good output from AI. Okay, what happened to me? Okay. And so some of the things just quickly about good prompts, you need to be specific. You want to say, I am, say, a system dynamics teacher, or I am a math teacher using system dynamics. Identify my role so it knows how much system dynamics maybe I know. Identify the audience. I am speaking to a middle school class or I'm speaking to a senior AP class. Identify the format for the response. Give me a paragraph, give me bullets, whatever. And there are lots more guidelines than just that. That's just barely the top. You can find great guidelines online. Help in mentor mode. It can help students divide a large problem into a sequence of smaller iterative models. Like, here's this problem I want to study. Tell me a sequence of 3 small model building iterative steps I should use in building the main model. It can help students come up with other examples for models that produce the same behavior, but in a different discipline. I think we say that there's a transferability of structure to different disciplines. That's something they could get AI to help them with. It can help students develop more precise feedback explanations Actually, there's a lot of power in the Stella software for that. It could suggest some sensitivity tests. It could suggest some policy interventions, provide explanations of a model for different stakeholders. It can be asked to fix a problem in the model. And I gave an example last time in my presentation in September. I had a bank account model that had a mistake in it, one that I knew the mistake that I thought. And I said, I think there's a mistake in this model. Please fix it. It did a terrific job. It wasn't what I intended. It gave me something different than I intended, but it was a great response. And Kareem said, you better be really careful what you ask it, because when I asked it to do that, it gave me a whole lot more stocks and I didn't really want all that stuff. So again, prompts, be specific and to the point. So you have to be kind of careful there. Using the Stella Selden and LT loops that matter, it can explain model behavior based on the feedback in the model. And I'm not sure there's any other SD software that's going to be able to provide that. This is extremely powerful. Okay, a couple of other guidelines. Students should always identify where and how they have used AI in building their models. What model structure did AI produce and what did the student produce? Actually, Stella has built in a little tool for you to actually see what AI produced and what was not produced by AI. That's pretty cool. Not going to talk about that in detail, just mentioning it. Students should show the prompts that they've used. We all learn a lot from each other's prompts. Students should be asked to reflect on what parts of the modeling process where AI was helpful and what parts were not helpful. This is all, this is all what we think are things that a teacher should be thinking about when they have students using AI. Now, oops, sorry about that. I already did this. There is a white paper that a group of us put together, the AI in SD education. That group put together a white paper with a whole lot of information from which I extracted what I put in my presentation. You can find that white paper on our webpage. If you go to systemdynamics.org, special interest groups, pre-college education SIG, and look on the main page under news, the very first thing is this white paper, and you can locate it and get a copy yourself of it. I think it would be very, very helpful. So that's kind of the end of my presentation, but I would like to say one thing that is not my presentation, but it is really a good other piece of information. So if you'll give me a second here. There's a new blog for SD, for systems thinking and system dynamics audiences called Loops Behind the News by Kim Castens and Tim Shipley. Here is the URL for that. If you're looking for stories that have feedback loops in them, look at their blog. I think you will find this a very interesting resource. Okay, I'm done. So, was that 10 minutes? Oh, a little more than 10 minutes. Okay.
A little
So,
more.
okay, Kareem, I'm very interested in your presentation. So, talk to us about CLDs because I think most of us are interested in CLDs.
Okay, so there's going to be some overlap with what Diana said because we are both authors of that white paper. So you'll see there's some overlap. In any case, my name is Kareem Shashakli. I'm at IC Systems. I'm also at WPI. And I want to start with the desired student skills that we're looking for. And these are critical thinking, first of all, and second of all, an open mind, not just in what you see from what the AI gives you or what other people tell you, but also about what you generate. Keep an open mind about everything you generate. You should question the AI, of course, but question yourself as well. We want students to be able to understand a model and its behavior, and that includes CLDs. the ability to explain a model, causal links, feedback, delays, why it behaves the way it does. And we also want them to keep control of the modeling process. Diana talked about, if you give it a prompt, it could generate something you can't understand. That happens all the time. If you want to do anything, you want to do it in small steps with the AI, or you're going to get in trouble. As Diana pointed out, students still need their core skills. If they don't have the core skills, they cannot evaluate what the AI is giving them. And we also need to teach them to create good prompts or ask the AI to give them good prompts. We want to focus on in-class exercises for the core skills so that we see that they're not using the computer, and then you can extend it using AI in homework exercises. And of course, you want to make sure they always indicate where they've used AI and show their prompts. These are the steps in the modeling process, and AI can be used in all of those. They can be used in defining the problem, drawing the reference mode here, although they can't actually draw it, developing the dynamic hypothesis, which is a causal loop diagram. Diana just talked about this stuff. And also policy experiments, you can check about policy even with CLDs. There are several ways to use the AI. Diana went over a few. One of them is to generate a clear problem statement, which you then feed to the AI, by the way, because it needs a problem statement. Generate background knowledge, which you also can feed it, but you should verify it. Generate a dynamic hypothesis or CLD. Generate a sequence of steps to build a model, and it can give you the prompts as well. Critique the model or your CLD for completion and accuracy. Debug your model. Actually, you can ask it if there's something wrong with your CLD. Analyze the model's behavior and suggest and evaluate policy options with implementation details. And again, you can ask it that about CLDs as well and see what it does. To build an AI prompt, you need a clear description of what you want it to do. You need to be very specific, and you need to give it the context. What is the situation we care about? Why do we care about it? You need to tell it who the audience is. Is it a high school student? Is it a legislator? Is it whoever it should be? You should give it whatever sources you want it to use so it doesn't just go out into the whole wide world. And you need to be very clear about the format you want the answer in and how large it should be. So I want a paragraph, I want 2 sentences, I want a table, I want a bulleted list, I want only 4 stocks, etc. Here's a sample problem formulation exercise. So this would be the first step toward building a CLD and then perhaps a model. Given this news story, create the problem statement and identify the key stocks in the system. This is something we expect them to do without use of AI. They should create the problem statement and identify the key stocks on their own. Then the next step is for them to develop an appropriate prompt to ask for the problem statement and the key stocks and then execute it. Critique the AI response and identify how it differs from yours. This way, students can learn what the AI can do, what it can't do. They can learn to think critically about the AI, and they can also get feedback about their own work because it may raise questions they hadn't thought about for the work they did in the first step. For this example, I'm going to use this story from NASA on the collapse of the Mayan civilization. It's not on their website anymore, so we have posted it here. And that I'm going to use that link directly. So that link goes in the background knowledge that you give it. And I say, this is my prompt. Give me a 2-sentence problem statement from the background knowledge. The background knowledge is just that link. And here's what it gave me. And if you read this, you'll find it went way overboard and it took stuff that wasn't necessarily even in the article. It didn't just use the background knowledge here. It started talking about causes and whatever. So I did not use this problem statement it gave me. Sometimes it gives me one that's okay. Sometimes it doesn't. You need to be able to read that and think about it and say, does this make sense for my problem statement? So I just used a simple one. What caused the Mayan civilization to collapse, which is all we're looking at. So I did not use what the AI gave me. I used my own. And then I still want the key stocks. So I put the problem statement in there, same link for the background knowledge, and said, using the background knowledge, identify the key stocks that led to the collapse. And it gave me this answer, which is an amazingly good answer. Population, food supply, water availability, forest cover, and soil fertility. By the way, only the first 4 are needed to explain the reference mode, which we didn't talk about how you get the reference mode. I won't be talking about that today. The next exercise is how do we generate a CLD or dynamic hypothesis, actually. Create a dynamic hypothesis for the system using only the stocks you've already identified. The student is supposed to do that on their own first, right? So they do that. And then they create an appropriate prompt to ask the AI to do the same thing using only the stocks, right? So you may wish to feed it the stocks it already identified, and you should explicitly limit the number of stocks or that you identified. It doesn't have to be what it identified. Next step for the student, critique the AI generated CLD. Does it make sense? Does it match your mental model? Is it missing anything or does it have too much of something? And then the next step, the student can modify their CLD or the AI CLD to match their new understanding after going through this exercise. So I did this using only the background knowledge, which is just that link to the article and the problem statement, of course. Create a dynamic hypothesis for the system, including only stocks and using no more than 5 stocks, because I want a dynamic hypothesis and that should just be stocks. And 5 is actually a big number for a dynamic hypothesis. In any case, it gave me 4. And if you notice something, this does not really match the list of stocks it gave me. It gave me a list of key stocks before, and this is not it. I mean, population is here, just renamed it. So it did not generate what I was hoping for it to generate. So I went back and I copied its list of key stocks that it gave me. That was in Selden, by the way. And this is in the qualitative engine, which Diana didn't talk about. She just talked about the quantitative. This is in the qualitative engine. I copied the key stocks that it gave me into the background knowledge. So now it has the link and it has the key stocks. And I also told it to limit it to 4 stocks. So I gave it the same prompt, but I just said 4 stocks just to see what it would do. And I added to the background knowledge. And now it gave me something that actually made sense, that actually uses the background knowledge. I don't know if anyone noticed, by the way, so societal stability was never mentioned before, and I don't believe it's even in the article. So it's, making stuff up. Anyway, here we have a decent CLD. It gives us a description, which I didn't include there, but it gives us a full description of what's going on. And the CLD makes sense as population goes up, forest cover goes down, water availability goes down, food supply goes down, population goes down. And you can ask it all kinds of questions about this. You can ask it, to identify the loops, which it can. And actually the Stealth software will also, you don't need to ask it if you don't want to, but you can ask it to do that. You can ask it to critique it. Give me a critique of the CLD, blah, 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 blah. But notice, and here I saved my model, but this could be of my CLD. Generate a bullet point where that bullet point gives you a short title of the problem. Give me up to 2 sentences on the issue, 1 sentence describing why it's important. Focus on the scope of it and its applicability to the problem statement. Raise any other important issues. So that you can use that for CLDs. You can use that for models. For feedback explanation, if you have a model, you can put data in there, run loops that matter, and get one. But you can also ask it for a feedback-based explanation for why the population collapsed if it didn't already give you one at the end of generating the CLD. And there we go. Wow. Did this yesterday too. Okay, so policy suggestions. Again, you can use it for a model, but you can also use it on the CLD. You can ask it to give it some ideas on how to prevent overshoot and collapse or whatever you want it to do. You can ask it to provide an explanation for whatever your audience is, right? So for example, provide an explanation for the collapse of the Mayan civilization for a college environmental studies major, and it will give you one, which is great. And of course, generating it background knowledge, I didn't show you that, but we can ask it, because I already had it, give me a bulleted list of concepts and relationships that I should include in my model. Okay, for some reason, clicks are not working here. Here we go. So we have AI, we're gonna need to use it. I didn't show you this, but you wanna use small iterative steps, and you can build your models, even your CLDs. If you want to build on your CLDs, small iterative steps, it can create junk very, very, very quickly. And modeling, you need to understand modeling to identify what's going on. And that's it. I'm just going to stop there.
Thank you very much, Kareem. That was terrific. I really appreciate all the energy you put into that list. So now we are opening up to the audience. Um, any questions or comments or whatever? Please raise your hand. Kim?
Um, I really enjoyed both of those talks very much, and I'm very impressed with what this AI is able to do. Um, I guess I'm trying to understand what you have in mind for the like um, classroom dynamics or sociology of your course to incentivize students to do this very hard work that you're asking of them rather than just let the AI do it. I mean, you're asking them to do, I mean, students are inclined to take the easy way forward, and you're asking them to take a very, very hard way forward. And I'm just wondering what kinds of incentives or sticks and carrots you're imagining could make this happen.
Well, a couple of things. By staging it at the beginning, where you are getting students to think that AI is giving them maybe some good information, but probably has mistakes. Right from the beginning, you want them to be analyzing what's given. And of course, you have the ultimate control because you're the one who creates the tests. You're the ones who creates the assignments. And if they don't go through the stages, then they won't. When I start teaching my SD modeling class, the very first assignment, students have a packet and they have to fill out answers as they go through building the model. And as students are tending to do, they give me like one sentence answers and I really mark down their papers. So these are students who tend to want to do well. They're kind of used to doing well. They don't do that again because that was, if you're going to give me an explanation, I want an explanation. So the expectation is there. The other thing is they will come up with some ideas and share them with the rest of the class. So there's a different kind of relationship. Students have so much more time to experiment than teachers do. And so it's really cool to have a little bit of give and back to make give and take to make it a little bit of fun. But it's a holding kids accountable for having to write out answers that are not that they have to think about to explain and to expect that AI is going to make mistakes all the way around. And if they're not careful to really make sure that you give them the feedback they need, that it's not okay to just take what AI. That's now I have not used AI in a class. I only learned about this a year ago or so, so I haven't done that. This is what I think I would do. And so that's just my answer. So
Yeah. But what
anyone
we
else?
know is that in writing, in classes where there are writing assignments, um, they are massively using AI to do the writing
Yeah,
assignments,
I
and
don't have experience
yeah,
with that, so
they've
I
been
can't answer. That's a hard one.
they've been acclimated to think of AI as a homework helper, not to think of AI as something that should be challenged and tested.
I can't answer that question because that's not the class I teach.
Of course.
So I don't have experience with that.
Thanks.
So, Lou, oh, we can't hear you, Lou.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thanks for the presentation and hello. I'm not a teacher. but I keep trying to get this to teachers, but they don't want to. The ones I speak to in my school district generally don't want to hear about system dynamics, so that's a real problem. Um, and I need help from you all for that, and I don't do this full time at all. My question is, I in the presentation, it appears that AI generates the polarity in the CLD. And what I would want from that is a validation of the polarity. So I would like, is this available or it should be available when it suggests a polarity in the loop? I would like to get papers or data sources. I want to, I would like some list of where the AI came up with its sources for the polarity. For instance, it occurred to me in an epidemic model or disease model that you include vaccines. And if AI pulls up current CDC recommendations or something, it's I'm going to guess there's going to be papers or arguments that the polarity will be different than what I might think is reality. So my question is that available in AI? Can I see the sources or get data from the AI?
So it tells you its reasoning for all of the polarity. So it doesn't just assign the polarity, it tells you in the reasoning what the polarity is, and instead, at least if you look at the connector, it will give you documentation that explains that's the same as the reasoning that it would have given in the in the reasoning section when it's done generating it. But it does not give you any sources, unfortunately. And I would like to see that too. I do know if you use Microsoft Copilot, which although that's not going to feed in here because it's not going to give you the answers that way. But if you ask Copilot directly, it will give you lists of sources.
Okay. In local science fairs, the disappointing thing that I've had as a judge and an observer is that kids will produce their concepts and their explanations or their sources for the what they are demonstrating comes from they don't read the papers. They don't cite citations. They cite Google. And that's a real flaw that I'm afraid this kind of AI is just going to exacerbate or uh, make more prevalent in student thinking. So that's my 2 cents.
And I agree, that's a real concern. It's also why I do use Copilot when I do any research because it gives me all of its references.
Is that something that can go with some explanation of that or steps to help teachers get students to use something like Copilot?
I don't
Okay.
know if
Anyway,
if they have a Microsoft subscription at their school, they're going to have access to it already, so they could be using it already.
okay. Well, thank you. I won't take any more time.
Okay, Steve?
Um, yeah, a couple of things. First of all, thank you very much, Kareem, and thank you, Diana. They're wonderful presentations. Um, and to Lou, I think that Perplexity also always gives the website that the information's coming from, so you could check that. I really want to speak to Kim. So Kim was asking about incentives, and this is the time. I'm a retired high school teacher, which is too bad because I would love to take some of this stuff back into the classroom and try it out to see if it works. But I have heard of teachers creating homework assignments where they give the prompts to the students. So the student works on things during class, and then they will give the student a series of prompts and then ask the student to better the AI. So to ask the AI to respond to the prompt, and then the student responds to the response that they get, telling the teacher why it was wrong or what was wrong with it. And that can be an incentive. I know that kids just love to do better than the machine. So that's one way. That's one approach you might think about. And that's it.
Thanks, Steve. That's good. It's kind of along the same lines as tell them, have them analyze the mistakes that AI is giving them all the time. So they don't just take it. They're looking for what are the mistakes that I'm getting from AI right from the beginning? And what are the good points? What are the mistakes and what are the good points? So they get that critical thinking right from the beginning. They just don't take AI at face value. Martha?
Yeah, thank you. And great presentations. And I'm just so impressed with the potential of AI and kudos to the to this group in particular for how you are managing it so far. I think you're hitting on a lot of the points of concern that people are all concerned about. I'm a Louis Maikovsky up here in Canada actually, but I'm the aunt and I'm a great aunt, and I see kids going through school, and with my passion for system dynamics, I tear my hair out strand by strand, seeing that it's still, what 50, 60 years later, not only in the world, but even within the systems thinking and system sciences, system dynamic is just not where it deserves to be, and I think there are a lot of reasons for that. But what I would something that I'm thrilled, first of all, to see that you're focusing a lot on trying to work the students' critical thinking skills, because I think that's another of the formal disciplines that they all came around. Design thinking, critical thinking, and systems thinking, they all came around together in the 19th and the 20th century. And I think they do have an affinity and a real need to be with each other recognizably. So I Danny, you hit on, I think, what I think now. It took me a while to get to thinking it, but I think you hit a potentially very, very impacting weak link in the chain, shall we say, of teaching. In the last session, when you mentioned how do teachers evaluate the students, and there are all these barriers for teachers not wanting to take up system dynamics, as Louis rightly says. And I think possibly maybe this is an uninvestigated area, really, where the teachers and the people who, in particular, the people who teach the teachers, maybe part of the lack of whatever it is, interest, confidence, full understanding. Maybe it's because they don't have, they're, I think they could be more comfortable teaching it if they had scholastic papers out which discuss and come to conclusions about how to evaluate the student's work. And the second thing I'll have to say here is, and this is for because teachers go to university and our scholars, we're all interested in scholastic work. There's just a marvelous book that I recently came across, which actually comes from a critical thinker's background, and she and her husband, but she's the only one on the list of authors. The name of the book is How to Understand and Evaluate Research, colon, a critical guide. Her name is Sue McGregor, M small c, Gregor. And I didn't realize that what she was doing. This book was like planted in a One Health list of dissertations, and I just followed it up. I am so impressed by this book because she comes actually from a very global home economics background, what's nowadays called nutritional sciences, consumer studies, and she goes through she brings as a critical thinker, she understands the importance of not just mathematical rigor and conceptual rigor of feedback loop thinking and accumulations, inflows, outflows. She really emphasized, as a critically thinking, influenced person, the necessity for linguistic rigor. that we need to focus attention on how we and be very, very careful with how we're using the terms that we use in the research community amongst ourselves. And what she also has done, she has laid it out so user-friendly for today's young scholar, who we know is very different nowadays from our baby boomer generation of young scholar back then. Today's young scholar, very different. I am just so I wish I could give this book to every person who needs to study other people's scholastic work, which I think AI is going to significantly accelerate. And this I just can't say enough about this book, honestly, for the teachers of the teachers, and to learn how to critically evaluate your students' works and to be confident in what you're doing as a teacher. Diana, as I say, just to close, I really think you hit on a potentially very, very high leverage missing link or weak link, whatever you want to say, in this frustrating supply chain that so many of us recognize. It's just not where it deserves to be yet. Yet.
Thank
So
you,
I'd be
Martha.
curious to get any feedback about these thoughts. Yeah, Louis, I'll get to the title. I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, the teacher plays a pivotal role in the quality of what happens in the classroom. So if you want something to happen, you have to assess for it. If it's important, it's got to be on the tests or in the assignments some way. And the students have to be held accountable for providing a certain level of quality in the work that they produce. There's no way around it. And it's not the easy way out. It's hard. So anyone else want to make comments? I'm wondering if anyone has actually used AI to build CLDs or stock flow models with their students or had their students in this audience. Has anyone actually done that? Yeah. See,
I,
that's,
I've I've asked students to. They're just starting. We'll see what happens.
yeah, it's all of this is what we think we want to have happen, but until we get some people using it and telling us what works and telling us what doesn't work, this is our best shot at this point, but we need the experience from the teachers in the classroom. And we're having trouble getting, that was going to be our November presentation, was what's going on in the classroom, teachers telling us, but we're not getting very many people to volunteer because I think there's a delay in applying it and teachers feeling confident enough to talk about it to
So,
others.
so I've been playing with this for 2.5 years, and it's only been in the last, I don't know, 6 to 8 months that it's actually been producing reasonable results that you could use in a classroom. And I think a lot of people are just using it starting now, September and
Right.
October.
I think that's
So,
right.
and that includes me, by the way. I would not have tried it in the classroom before now.
Yeah. And that's why we wanted to come up with these webinars and SIG meeting topics to kind of stimulate your thinking around what kind of things should be in my head as I plan lessons for my students. How should I think about good uses of AI and keep that student in the loop, human in the loop in the building, and the analysis that the human has to analyze what AI is giving them because AI just makes mistakes. And we don't want to lose also our understanding of what we're trying to build with these causal loop diagrams and models. So I know one question that was mentioned in an email to us before this started, is this InvenSim? And unfortunately, as far as I know, it is not. AI, Stella and Billy Schoenberg and the folks at Kareem and Bob Eberline at IC Systems have made this open source. They wanted having this implementation into model building SD and ST model building software to lift all boats. They wanted to make it open source, which I think is extremely generous of them, to make that available to anyone who wants to put it in so that everyone can improve that product and use it freely. As far as I know, I think Stella at this point, well, I don't know all the softwares, but I know it's in all of Stella's products, but it's not yet in Vensim, and I don't know what their plans are for doing that. Emre, did you have a couple of other questions that we had from Merlot, who wanted some answers?
Let me. Will the AI performances be built in the causal loop diagram? How this can be done? Will the AI
It,
performances be built in the causal loop diagrams? How this can be done?
it is. It's in the causal loop. It's not just in stocks and flows. Well, I shouldn't be talking. Kareem, you say, because it's your software.
Well, okay. So first of all, on your point, there is no one else who's incorporated it into their software yet. There are people looking at it, but there's no one who's done it yet. I expect we'll see other people incorporating it as time goes on. These things take time. I did want to point out that in the Freestyle Online, you can build fairly large CLDs in the free version using the AI. There's a pretty large limit on CLD side, and you can also build large models, but at a certain point it gets so big in the free version you won't be able to edit it. You'll be able to run it and look at it, but you can't edit it. So the question as far as the CLDs, yeah, there are three main engines. The in SDAI. The first one is the qualitative one that lets you build CLDs, and it's completely integrated. You can build CLDs, you can ask questions about CLDs, you can expand on CLDs, you can ask it to critique the CLDs. All that stuff's integrated in the qualitative engine, and there's a qualitative mentor as well. There's the quantitative engine that Diana told us about that lets you build stock flow models and critique them, and there's also Selden that lets you ask general questions. So yes, CLDs are fully integrated into the AI features set.
Are there any other questions about, guidelines, things you're concerned about? If you wanted to think about using AI to have students build CLDs or stock flow models, any other concerns? I haven't been actually looking in the chat. So if you put a question in the chat, would you ask it now in the open so I don't have to scroll through? I tend not to be very good at talking and looking at the chat at the same time. But there are some good links.
I've been answering them.
Oh, great.
Diana.
Thank you. There are some great links in the chat. So please copy the chat, save the chat so that you have some of the things that are in it. And the white paper, there's a link to the white paper in the chat. I think it's like a 15 or 16 page document that a group of us worked on for months. And it's going to be a living document as we gain experience. There are a couple of ideas for lessons, I think at the university level, not at the high school level. High school is a tough nut to crack. So here I was a high school teacher doing SD, actually learning SD as I was doing SD. And so I was like up to here with the work all the time. And as soon as I got out of the classroom, I can't get back to teachers. I can't actually get to the classroom anymore, which is really, really frustrating because and we have some ideas about we're thinking we'll see if we get funded about developing an easy to access website of resources for teaching SD. So lessons and how to learn yourself and some other things like this. We are hoping we're hoping to increase our visibility and usability for what we have uh, coming up. We have, okay, Martha?
Yeah, thank you. Uh, Another pain point with regarding the low visibility of system dynamics and what it can do is the even even lesser visibility within it of the participatory modeling stream, the community-based system dynamic stream. And is there what is being done, or is there anything being done in integrating and raising awareness amongst teachers that there is this highly uh, powerful, I think, branch of system dynamics that's not included. You don't see any sense of the word participatory model building in the term system dynamics. So it's like people don't know what they don't know, and if you don't know what you don't know that it's there. So what can I guess my question is what can AI do to help teachers bring in this apparently disparate uh, branch of system dynamics? I think there are a lot of people who may I think there are students who may be much more attracted to learning about system dynamics and learning the skills of system dynamics and simulation through the participatory modeling lens than in addition to the traditional expert modeler system dynamics that gets pushed and pushed and pushed all the time. Any thoughts about that?
I think the participatory, I think students like to build. I think they
Together,
are very open
together.
to building. Yes. And I think that's the way to go. The
I do
problem
too.
is you can't get it into the classroom because the administration won't let you talk to the teachers. And you can't get to the teachers because they're really busy and they have no experience with it. One thing that is so terrific about what's happening in Turkey is that they have 4 or 5 professors of education who are bringing this into their teacher training programs.
The
When
participatory branch of it, you're saying? Or
they are having their teachers participate with systems thinking lessons, and when teachers in their training are getting this experience, they are much more likely to bring it into the classroom.
there, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the problem is, so I went to Portland State, where I have at least some people that I know, and I said, I would really like to talk to some educators who train math teachers. And they said, well, we don't really have that. We teach in the math department the mathematics that teachers need to know to teach math in high schools. I said, well, I'd like to talk to those teachers. Well, not really. They have their curriculum, but you could teach a course. Well, I don't really want to teach a course uh, in it at the university level. What I want to do is to influence all the teachers who are teaching the potential math teachers, but they're not just teaching math teachers. They're teaching a topic, and math teachers have to take that topic. So it's kind of like a catch-22. How do you find the leverage points for, it seems like there are so many closed access
Yeah.
points that it's really hard to get to the people. Students love it. I have never had a class where I've had a group of students who haven't just really liked building these models.
Yeah.
And in math, And in science, certain of the sciences, certainly physics, environmental science, biology, health science, those sciences, not so much chemistry. Maybe it's just because I don't know chemistry very well. Those are places that are just natural places for using the actual model building. But the CLDs too in social studies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So anyway,
Well,
it's a dilemma.
yeah, that's very, 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 very frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we
Okay.
are actually over time. I don't know if if there are other questions, we will stay and answer your questions. Hour is up, but we want to make sure that we answer questions of anyone who wants to ask us questions. We will stay, but if you need to leave, we understand that. Thank you for coming. We will have something on the 20th of November, and we have a couple of possibilities, and we will start advertising that probably in a couple of weeks. We hope you will come back and let us know if there are things you would like us to do to try to find expertise for presenters that deal. Our focus is pre-college. So we really focus on what we can do at the pre-college level. So any other questions? I guess not.
Yes, sorry. I'm so sorry. Um, you say pre-college. What I found interesting is that one thing sorry, but first of all, very, very interesting questions, very knowledgeable and some great presentations. So thank you. Um, Food for thought. When we talk about systems dynamics at that level, pre-college, it's often strikes me that the actual system itself isn't being interrogated in a systems dynamic way, and no one's looking at the structure initially.
Yeah.
Um, might that be an area to investigate, and how would you set that as a precursor for mapping out a system? I've tried a few times. I've had to use the AI, but um, I think from my own experience, I think that would be a very useful um, place to start in terms of mapping the organization. But it then becomes very complicated because there are competing needs. And if you then say to someone that maybe their role is now inefficient in that mix, then that's when I think those difficult conversations may come into play. That was certainly some of the experience I had when I started looking into it in this way. So if there are any suggestions of how to set the conversation for mapping out the organization and how you'd introduce it, I think that would be really useful.
Okay. Are you talking about an individual school or a school system or education in
Right.
general? Because Emre created a really nice stock flow diagram about education in general, where you have teachers who have been
Yeah.
trained in SD and others who have not, and then the students who have been trained, and they go back and they go to university and become professors who use it, and then the teacher training. He has a very nice model diagram of that. But if you're talking about an individual school, I
And the
think,
system, yeah. Within it. So you've got the individual school within a system, within a government, within a country. That's I think where those conversations is what I was thinking.
well, I think
Mhm.
you should send an email to Emre because he has
Okay.
a diagram that is a very nice diagram that he could talk to you about. I don't know that we have enough time for him to explain the diagram now, but
No problem.
Emre, you want to put your email or in the
Yes,
I'll send
I
a
will put
message.
my
Thank you.
email, and I'm just trying to find the link for the interface
Oh,
is
okay. He's
coming.
trying to find the link. He's got he does everything. He's so well organized. It's like his mind is a file cabinet. I don't know how he keeps everything, but he has a link. He posts things, I think, in Google Docs or something like that, so that you can access it easily. But he has a very nice Stella stock flow diagram, just a diagram of a system, and it's pretty thorough, and it may be a help. You're right. It's the system that's part of the problem because it does not really support innovation. And so there are problems with, I can just talk about mathematics and how out of date the mathematics that we are teaching to our students is based on the technology that is available now and what they will need, when they go to the workforce. But it's a definite problem. You have to find innovative administrators and innovative teachers who want to do something different from the way they were trained. And always it requires extra work of them. And there are just teachers who don't want to do the extra work, which is just a problem.
Or don't have time for it, Diana.
Well, it's true. You don't want teachers who've just had kids because they have no life already. And there are certain
And at some schools,
career places that are more prime, and you don't want to force teachers into a professional development because you get teachers going to the professional development already with a negative attitude. You want to attract teachers who want to hear what you have to say. I've been in that.
I have to go. So
Yeah,
thank you.
sorry about that. Thank you, Kareem. Thank you very much. And will you provide us your slides? I know it's hard.
If they want, sure. Yeah.
Okay,
You want me to
great.
send them to you, Diana?
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
and I will provide my slides as well. Somebody asked. Okay. Lou? I can't hear you, Lou. You're talking to yourself.
This is my first time at one of your SIG online meetings. I'm coming back. Thanks. This is great.
Great.
You mentioned getting to educators. For one of the lectures, I think it was from you folks, it was exposing for teachers doing modeling. It ended up being the vice principal of my local high school. I presented it to him with the link, and this was the vice principal, and he made it clear he wasn't going to. I said, you go to it or see if you can get somebody in the school to at least attend something about system dynamics that was being presented for that purpose and introduction. He had no interest in it.
You
I
got to
don't-
talk their language. You got to give them something that speaks to the problems they care about.
All right.
So, problem kids, disciplinary problems, or for a principal, the whole elementary, middle school, high school, school population with kids dropping out and stuff like that. You got to have a problem they care about.
Okay.
Yeah. I did one for Catholic elementary principals once, and I did it with tuition and kids dropping out and school populations because that was important to them. They cared about they cared about that problem. It's the only way. That's why when I talk to teachers, I try to make sure I have some examples of things they teach and then models that show how, especially problem areas, like in biology, homeostasis. What is it? Now it's been kind of far in the back. Calcium and what's the balance in homeostasis with calcium and I can't remember, but it's a complicated set of feedbacks. Glucose and insulin. You get the general idea, but when you see it in a stock flow model And you can experiment with what type 1 diabetes does or type 2 diabetes, which actually affect different parts of the system. It's like, oh my gosh, it's such a visual way to understand a problem. You got to look for places in the curriculum that are kind of tough to teach. And then a way to use the visual nature of either CLDs or stock flow models, because they're teaching it anyway. So it's not a new added thing. It's just a different method of teaching what they're already teaching. And to me, that's what sells me. I did it in algebra, different ways to represent linear, exponential, quadratic, sinusoidal oscillations and the different applications. And it's for kids who are not very strong in math. So they don't like equations because equations are so abstract, but they really liked the stocks and flows because it was two-dimensional and the words were not X, Y, Z. They were actual names of things. And they could point to places where there was a problem. And you could really bring in some wonderful examples of combining functions like drug dynamics, which they loved talking about.
Well, you,
Therapeutic drug dynamics.
well, you made me remember Tim Joy's his lessons to his students about Hamlet. And now I'm curious how AI would handle that teaching model that he used for Hamlet.
Well, you'd have to ask him,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
just made me think another application is understanding literature and how AI who could read Hamlet would help a
right.
student understand Hamlet. Okay.
There are such talented teachers. They will come up with wonderful ways to use the tools. We just have to provide some beginning places. Right now, almost no one has any experience. I mean, it's just such a big change, and it's happening like fire hose sort of learning. It's just too much too soon. It's really hard to know. So I don't want to do it. It's just too much. I don't have time to learn it. So we're just trying to provide some stepping stones, some places where teachers who are interested can have a place to start learning. And then they become the experts in their school. That's the real point. We want the teachers to become the experts in their school. So they're talking to their colleagues and saying, we're doing, or the kids in their classes are going, wow, we learned really something cool in this class. You ought to take that, teacher. Well, anyway, so
Well, thank you.
yeah. It's not an easy thing to get in, but it's worth the rest of my life. So that's what I'm planning to do. Um, I think we probably need to, unless somebody really has something they want to say, we probably need to bring this to an end. Anyone else? Okay. I'm going to call it quits. We hope to see you on November 20th with our next, whatever we're doing next. I have an idea, but I don't have my people responding to me like, will you present? So I can't say we're going to have a specific thing, but we'll advertise it. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Okay. Bye.